Hi everyone. I'm just a little early. I'm going to find us on Facebook and then I'll put on um, my camera. See if I can. Oh, there it is. I found it. Hopefully people will be out there. And I'm going to go ahead and open the camera. Here we go. Let's close that there. Hi everyone. Hi there. Welcome to Live with Janome. I'm Ann Hine, embroidery software specialist for Janome America. And today, I'm back home again, which is really nice. And I'm going to be talking about the creating original art, different things that you can use in the Artistic Digitizer software to create either original art that you draw yourself, or maybe you're going to bring in a backdrop and work from that. You can do that as well. But there's a lot of tools you can use to either clean up a piece of artwork or create from scratch. And I want to show you those because I think there's a lot of fun ones to work with, and hopefully I can cover all of them for you today, but there's a lot in there. So if hopefully there's some people out there. Well, I do see a couple people out there now, so that's great. I'm going to go ahead and put on my software. Now I am using version 2, but most of these, I think almost all of them are in version 1.7 as well. So you shouldn't have any trouble with that. The only things that look a little different are the properties windows. And then I use a new color manager. So I can show you, I'll be showing that as well. So those are the two differences. And I think we have a new feature too that I was going to show called hide and show. So I'll have that there as well. All right, so hi Robin, nice to see you there. All right, I do have my comments up, so you're welcome to comment. And let me get my software on here, and then I just have to move a few things because my computer is on a little bit of a stand today, and I'm trying to make room here for everything. Everything happens at the last minute. Uh-oh, where's my software? Let's see here. There it goes. Let me put it on the welcome page. Now we have it, right? Let me see. It's coming. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. And then I'm going to move this out of the way. This will be easier. All right. So I'm going to open up a new page, but just if you're brand new, this is a welcome page, whether you're in 1.7 or any version of or beyond in version 2. This is our welcome page. Version 2 has new videos over here on the side. Sometimes the videos are closed. There's a little triangle right here. If you only see your recents and different ways to get into the program, then you want to click on this little arrow and you'll see all the videos right over there. Those are some of the videos. These are the ones that come with the program from our developer. They also post project videos to our Facebook page, Janome Artistic Digitizer Facebook group, so you can always check out those. And then we used to have a lot of videos in our guides. Facebook deleted a lot of videos over the summer, near the end of the summer, and I have most of my collection moved over to my YouTube page. So if you look up Ann Hine, I think it's 5714, you'll find them organized in playlists there. So you can go over there and take a look at the videos there. If you're looking for the skill builders or some of the series I did, like the Quilt Block Party, what else did I do? Oh, Zip Pouch of the Month, and some other things are over there as well. All right. You want to set your default machine and hoop right here before you head in the first time, and then every time you open, you will open to whatever your favorite hoop is and your machine. So I'm going to just collect on Create New, and here is my big giant hoop. That's usually the one I work from, and if I need to change it, I go right up here to my machine and I can click on Change. Normally there's lots of items under here, but there's only one because there's nothing down in here. So I could click here and I can change to a different hoop. And then once I change to a hoop, I can have the rotation over here if I need to rotate my hoop. And then on the right-hand side, if I need to find a different hoop, I can click on the hoop icon. If I'm multi-hooping, I will use the plus. So I'm going to go back because I got a double click there and I want to use this hoop. So I am going to rotate my hoop because I want to show you something. I did not know this because I don't always turn my hoop when I'm working. I don't know why, I just don't. Sometimes I work outside the hoop and then bring it back in. But when you turn the hoop right now, the crosshairs in the center seem to go away. And the developer is aware of this, and thank you for those people who pointed it out. There's a lot in this program, and for us, some of us, to touch on every part of it. That's why it's great when someone finds something that's not quite the way you remember it or see it. Okay, so now that I have it open, a couple things you can do when you're working in here, and you can I have my grid turned on and off, and you can turn it on and off, and up under view, your grid is right here, and you can turn it off and on using a shortcut, depending on if you're on a Mac or a PC. There's a different one, and you can have it on show. Now mine is giant. I have it in 2-inch blocks, and to do that, when you're working, you may want that. You can go under grid and then come down here to edit. And you can change it to anything you like here under custom, or you can keep it under the default, which is the one that has the many, many lines, if you like that. So I'm going to put it back on the many lines. The other thing you can do up here is, I'm going to zoom so we can see the different lines. There's major, medium, and minor lines. And if you need to change those colors, we also are able to do that under our custom UI colors. And right down here where it says the major line, that's my bright red line. The medium one is the one that's right here. And then the minor one is this gray one. So you can click on these, and then you can change the intensity here or the color. So if you wanted them a different color, you could change them over there. And then you could do that for each of them. Maybe I want my medium ones to be blue, so I can move my little dot over here and I can have it blue, and maybe not too bright blue, but there we go. Now they're blue, and then I have gray. All right. And if you want to restore them, you can just restore them here or save them. I'm going to save mine. And there's other things in here you can change. I've gone over that at other different times, but you're welcome to look in here and play around with the different colors of things that you can change. I'm just going to save those, and then you can see it looks more like that. Sometimes I set mine at 1/4 inch, but right now just for show, I had put it at 2 inch so you could really see the difference. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. I don't really need it on, but you can have it turned on, and you can have snap turned on so that if you're drawing straight lines, it'll snap to the lines, giving you nice straight lines. And even if you don't have the lines up there, it'll snap for you. And then guidelines, I'm going to turn guidelines on and show you those. Those are set for snap as well, so they will snap onto the line. So let me turn off my grid. There we go. And so guidelines, we're going to start with guidelines, which are right down here. You can click on guidelines, and then let me back out of my hoop a little bit more. There we go. And then you can drag and you get a line, and you can put your cursor on it and move it to a different angle if you want. If you want to, let me see here. Let's get it back. There we go. You can put it, in any direction. You can add more of them if you want to. And then if you need to move them around, you can click on them and move them. For some reason, they are stuck here today. I was just playing. There it is. There's my hand. When the hand is on there, you can move your lines around wherever you want on here. So maybe I want it over here, and I want it more straight up and down. I could put it there. Maybe I want another one going across. And then I have a nice work area to align things with, if that's what I want to do. When you're done with, when you're all done, you can click on them. Oops, click on click on your guidelines, and then just hit delete, and you can delete them that way. All right, so that's guidelines down here. The other thing you can do is when you click on guidelines, it gives you a work area up here. So you can click on work area, and then you can make a work area within your hoop that you want to stay within. It can be rectangular, circular, or a polygon area, and then you would just put your parameters in here. So if I wanted to work, with a circle that was 6 by 6, or maybe I wanted to be, more of an oval kind of thing. So I want to put it at 8.0 by 6 inches high. It's going to make an area like this. And so that would be this area that I would want to work within. Maybe I was doing something, maybe I was creating a patch, or maybe some design that I really wanted to have that oval in here so I could work with this. It's not part of your design. It doesn't stitch out. And as you add, you can add things on top of it just like that. You can add lettering, bring in different designs on there, and then move them all around inside your work area. And this can be really handy. Sometimes we want to use I like to have my big hoop up most of the time, but I don't need the whole area. And maybe I want to work within a certain shape, or, just to keep, it's almost like working on a piece of paper rather than a giant canvas. So that's what that's for. And then when you're done, I'm going to click delete this guy. You can come back into view, and then, or wait a minute, let me get something in here, get my guideline. There we go. I have my work area showing. And then if I click up here, I can cancel my work area if I want to. And then you can click in your work area and get a where you clear your work area. Now I'm not sure why this is. Oh, I see what's happening. Helps if your mouse is going where it's supposed to go. No, I don't want to paste that on here. All right, so let me show you one other thing you can do with a work area. I'm going to close this one right now. I don't want to save it. You can save your work area with the item that you're working on. I'm just going to open up a new one. And one of the things I like to do is create my own work area. So I'm going to use my digitize outline shape. And sometimes, you might want to work in, some weird shape. Maybe you're making something that requires an interesting odd shape. Maybe I don't know what you're creating, but maybe it looks like this. And then you can turn this into a work area. When you select it, you can right click on it. And right here, it says use shape as work area. So now I can create this as my work area. And then I don't have to worry about that other stuff on top of it. And I can just bring in, if I wanted to bring in shapes, I can bring in my shapes and move them around in here. Let me delete that middle one because I don't need that one. So I can move these around. I can copy paste in here. And don't forget, if you have comments, go ahead and post them. I'm trying to keep an eye out over there on my iPad so I can see that. So you can make, and I'm going to delete the outlines on here easily by going to my used colors and Xing out the outline. There we go, because I don't need an outline on those. So you can go ahead and add things in here. If you wanted to do some fun stuff, maybe you wanted to continue with a shape. Maybe I like this shape. So I'm going to come back in and use the edge of this to create some artwork. And if I'm using the digitize outline shape tool under the context menu. So it's the default. So yours is set this way as well. So your left clicks are going to be curve nodes. And if you need a cusp node or a square, you can go ahead and hold down Shift and left click. And there you go. You get your cusp node on there. So I create this little shape. I select it. Again, I'm going to delete my outline, And now I have this interesting little shape right here. And then if I need to, because I want it to fit within my workspace, I can go ahead and play with the nodes now and make it fit better to that shape if I'm trying to adhere to my shape a little bit more. It's kind of fun to do this because you can fill these in with all different, blobs of color and then and shapes, and then you could take those shapes and come over to your properties and apply a pattern. So we have all these patterns, and whether you're using, this is a step fill right now, whether you're using a step fill, let me see if I can move this over and then up a little bit so we can see it better. There we go. And then you can add a pattern to it like that to add a little bit of interest to your work. And then from there, you can also change the density of this or the length or the compensation. So that's a fun way to work with this. If you wanted to work with a satin, you can work with a satin. Now these satin stitches are way long and you really want to add a pattern to that. So you could come in here and add a pattern to your satin stitches so that they have a different look to them, but they're still a more satin look than you would have with a step pattern on there. Okay, and that was a little start into our digitize outline shape tool. So over here, and I clicked on it to create that, here are your three options under your outline shape tool. And the first one is where you click and drag your lines out like this, or if you left click, you'll get straight lines. And then if you left click and hold shift down, you get straight lines. There you go. And then when you bring it and put it on top of itself, it closes itself. If you just want a line, you can just draw a line like this. And once you get there, you can right click, end shape. And then your line, now that it's attached over there, and I'm just going to do break apart. So I selected both, right clicked, break apart, and then I'm just going to choose the line, and then over in properties under outline, if I want to make this a satin outline, I can, and then I have all my parameters here to change the width of that to something wide or not so wide over here. So that would be my creating a line. Now sometimes we want what I call, when is a line not a line? We want something that looks like a line, but it looks like a line, but it's going to be a filled shape. All right, let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to use my digitize outline shape tool, and I'm just going to follow the one that I just did. In the corner here, I want to do shift and click, and then go back. So I'm going to make my solid looking shape like this. There we go. And I'm going to fix this corner right here first before I go too far. I think I'm going to bring this, click on that and drag it back in. There we go. And then let's hit select. Now it is a step fill, but I really would like a satin fill. So when I changed, and you can see it's a fill now. When I hit satin, now my stitches, I can direct my stitches. Over here, and let's make this one, let's see if I can make it red. Oh, cancel that. Not that, we're gonna do that in a second. Well, let's go here. There it is, now it's selected. All right, let's make that like pink so we can see it better. There we go. So when you make a line, it does follow right along. But when you make an object and you fill it like I did here, and I'm going to remove the outline on this one, you can direct those stitches to be different ways by using a tool over here called Stitch Flow. Now Stitch Flow, we're going to use it a couple different times, but I wanted to show it here because I can direct it like this, and you can see up here I have 3 options right now. So I can direct my stitches to go in, whatever direction I want. Maybe I want some to go over here and some to turn down that way. So I have that option to do that. Now, a lot of times when you're working with lettering, those are filled shapes and you get, sometimes your satin stitch is running in a weird way. That's when you want to use your stitch flow tool. All right, so not only when creating your own stuff, but when you're fixing other things, this tool is available to you with satin. And it has the divide and point direction. And they each do different things. And I'll show a little bit about that as we go along. So let's go back to our Digitize Outline Shape tool. The next one is the freehand shape. So maybe you are good, you just, you're good at outlining, or you want to, freehand draw something like that. You can, draw your own. That almost looked like something. If I wanted to draw, a flower, sometimes I'll use this also when I want to create long arm designs or in the hoop in quilting designs, because I can freely draw them and then I can assign a stitch to them. And they're all connecting because I'm doing them all the same color. But over here is where I would change my running stitch. I don't want to double. Let me go back here. I don't want a double stitch, so I'm just going to change that to none, and it'll be a single stitch in there. And then I can change in my properties the length of that stitch by going down here to how many passes, and the length is here. So I could change my length if I want a really long length, which, that's like 1 inch, so we really wouldn't want that. But just so you can see, you can change the length of that in your properties. You must have things selected for other things to show. So you notice when I don't have anything selected, my properties are not here. Well, when I select, then things show up over there. Okay. All right. The last one on here is, and I'm going to delete this part right there. And I'm going to delete these out here because I don't need them. And I'm going to leave that one there. The last one that's under here is really very handy for a lot of different things. The Magic Wand. What Magic Wand does is, I'm just going to click it on here. It makes a copy. So I'm going to select it now, and I can move my copy over like this. And if I want to, maybe I want to make it smaller. So I'm going to use my proportional checked, and I'm just going to put this at maybe 75%. Oops. Yeah. Well, no, I think I want to go back. Let me go back up. Let me undo here for a second. There we go. And go back down to 7, maybe 80%. There we go. So you can, change it up there. You can change it with your arrows like this if you want to size it as well. And now you have a copy of what you just made over here. You can use that in other areas as well. And that would be right under here, under your Digitize tool, your Magic Wand. A lot of times we forget that it's there, but it can be really handy for making multiples of something, sometimes of just clicking on that over here. Now, when I started using this, I told you I was using the Context tool. That is the default, and that is where, your left clicks are curve nodes, and shift and left click are your cusp or line nodes, corner nodes. If you wanted to change that, you can change that in a couple different places depending on if you are in a Mac or a PC. On a PC, it would be under Tools and Tool Options. Now, I don't have that here because I'm on a Mac, but it would be under Tools and Tool Options. On a Mac, it's under Artistic and Preferences. And it opens the same window. And then right in here under Tools, here is where you would change your digitizer tool. And when you change it to the other ones, it changes the whether you're right or left clicking and what you're getting when you do that. So if you're used to Janome Digitizer, it'll be more like that here. And you can find that out in the manual. Look up the context menu, and then it'll tell you about each of those sections so you know how they work, okay? There we go. All right, so that's our digitized outline shape tool. I use this a lot. I find it really handy. I also use the shapes tool a lot. And the shapes tool, you just hover here and then you can pick any of these shapes. There's the ellipse, which you can make your circles, and you can hold down your control and shift and get your perfect circles in there as well. And then you can work with them. Now these are coming in, they're not filled in. If because I'm in version 2, it only gives you the outline. If I wanted it filled, I could select down here and give it a fill, and now it has a fill and an outline. And then if I want to change my outline color, I just click on my item, excuse me, and then I can go to my pencil and pick a color for my outline, and now my outline has that color. Let me go up here and do this up here. When I come in here, let's do a rectangle. There we go. So my rectangle has both a fill and an outline, and you'll notice like my fill and my outline are both red. Now yours might be white, but I'm going to show you how to change that. So I want to go to a new page, as I think as we start working, this is going to be very handy for you. So on a new page, you want to make a shape, and here's my shape. And mine is really set at red for my fill and black for my outline. And you can see here when I go in like that. To get yours like that, click and drag a shape. And then while it's selected, you need to come over to your pencil and choose a color that you want for your outline. So if I wanted my outlines to be green, and I'm going to leave my fill as red, I'm not going to change it. So now I know when I look here, it's green and red. What I need to do next is not have anything selected, and then left click on the color. And over here, it says, there's the color I'm going to change my outline to. It says for graphic objects, text objects. And I'd like both of those to have an outline. And you don't have to have at either of those. I tend to like to have them, and then I delete them when I don't want them. I can change the default width if I want them to be a little bit outline wider. And then if I want it just for this design or for every design. Now I want to change it for every design. So every time I create a shape, it's going to have this green outline, okay? And then down here, I can left click on the red, and I can change that. All my graphic objects will be red. All my text objects will have a red fill. And I want this for every new design. And I'm going to select OK. And now when I go to click and, oops, I pick my shape and I click and drag, I can see that, let's click off of that and zoom in. You can see there's my green outline and my red. So you can set that for yourself, for your default, okay? All right. And let's see, I think those are the last of the those kind of things I wanted to show before we start creating some stuff. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to show you this here first. So I created these flowers, and I want to show you how I did them. You know, some people are wonderful. You know, everybody's at a different level of how they draw and how they create. I kind of do more whimsical kind of things, and I'm not like still lifes aren't my thing, but you can definitely do that in here. Here are some other flowers and shapes that I made and some extra things that I did to them. So I'm going to start here with this one. When I drew this little thing, it almost looks like a duck foot, but it's a tulip bending over. And I made it into a applique here. And to easily do that, I'm just going to recreate it off to the side here. So I used my digitize outline shape and I made this shape like this. I came down like this and maybe I went like this. And then I selected it. And then usually, after I do that, I like to select it and select edit nodes and move my nodes a little bit just to make things a little smoother. Maybe I want to shape it a little differently, kind of like that, or maybe I want these to be a little shorter, kind of, however I want to do that. And then once I have it, I'm going to select it. I can come right over here to, it's a fill. I'm going to actually delete the outline part because I don't need the outline part. So I'm going to delete that. And under, I'm going to click on step. And right here, I'm going to do applique. And once it opens as applique, it auto sets with the E-stitch or blanket stitch. And so the first thing I want to do is how I'm going to deal with my fabric. So I'm going to trim my fabric during the embroidery. So I'm going to click during, and then I would like to put satin stitch on there. So once I click satin down here in my properties, I get and in 1.7, you have to go to outline. It doesn't open automatically like it does here. I can change the width of that outline if I want, the density of it, anything like that. I can change on my outline. And this will have the stops you need. If I go under slow redraw here, and I let this stitch, it's going to do the shape. And that little jump it made, that's where it stops. It's hard to see that little jump, but you'll see the cursor jump out. It's doing, there it goes. So it did a little jump out, and at that point, you would do your trimming, and then it would start again. You could start it again, and it will do that. It looks like it's all one. It looks like it's all one color, but in your machine, it will read it as placement, tack down, and finishing. Okay, or satin, however they word that last one. So it does give you all the stops when you do it that way. You can do a manual one as well, but that's how the applique works. And then here, this one here, I just used a satin outline like I showed before to make my stem. And then I drew my leaf here. And then for this part, I just drew a line up there and I chose the oval bean for the little seeds on the inside. Okay, now over here, I just want to show these little guys here and my mushroom, and I'm going to get back to my other flowers in just a minute. This right here, if you want to add this little touch to it, this is called random, and you can have random, I could put random all on this one too. When I select a outline, right down here, a satin outline, I get random, and I can click on random, and then I can move this across like that. And when I do that, there's more underneath here. Let me see on my window here if I can get the bottom. There it is. I can change if it's on both sides or one side. So let me bring that in so you guys can see that. And if I go in here, I could do it on the B side, which is the inside, or I could do it on the A side, which is the outside. So it's kind of an interesting technique. But on my mushroom, I did not want it all the way around. So I just created a line, and I used side A, and I made it 90 and just hung it off the edge of my piece. So it looked like, how sometimes the underside of mushrooms are kind of like that. So this is a great way to add a little texture to something that you're working on. All right, then that's random. This is new for version 2. So you can have it, if I wanted it symmetric on each side, it would give a little more symmetric look. Or if I wanted to use both, or just like the B or the A side. There's the B side. So this is going to be really handy. I've used this in a couple places. on this little guy here, I did the same thing here. I created a blobby shape, drawing a little shape. And then what I did is I just copied it and shrunk it, and copied it again and shrunk it down. And the inner one, I used a tool called Gradient. I have to ungroup this because I copy pasted it over here. So this part in here, you can see some of it is thinner than the other part, and that's using the tool down here on a step fill, Gradient. And it's great for shading, and you can make mixed colors that way by layering them on top of each other and making the gradient. This is a -47, but on the copy, I could make it a +247, and so the thinner part would be on this side. So you can really do a lot of fun things with that, with our gradient. And I'm going to do a quick little demo on that because I really like to show gradient. So here, we'll just use a little circle. I don't need my outline again. I'm going to choose gradient, and I'm going to make my gradient like 500 so you can really see how it is. So it's, oops, let me get in here close so you can see that. Now I can select it, and then I'm going to copy paste it. I'm going to mirror it, and then I'm going to change the color of it to yellow. So you can see how it's laid on top of each other. You can also, with this, I'm going to move this out of the way for a minute. You can also use stitch flow. And if you bring your line in like that, you can actually bend it a little bit and make it curve in a different direction like that. And while it's that way, copy, paste it, and then change it to yellow, and then turn on stitch flow and make it curve maybe the other way. So you get some really mixed things happening in there. So that's a great way to do some blending and color mixing. Now you can use this, even if you bring in something you convert and you have shapes, you just have to select them and apply the gradient to them. And this is in both 2.0 and version 1.7 as well. All right, I think I got everything on this page. Let's go back to these flowers over here. These are really fun to make on here. And what I did to create my flower is I took a circle shape like this, and I made my circle, and then I went ahead, deleted my outline. Did it make an outline this time? I don't think it did. Nope, it didn't. Okay, so I took it like that, and then I used a center shape. Let's see, let's make that one big. And then I'm going to copy paste that one. And then I used a smaller one like this. And I set the smaller one over here for a second. And I went into my array tool and circular. And I took my tool and I moved it to the center there. And then I can drag these out till they sit on the outside of that of the center section. So it kind of covers it all. And maybe I got to move it a little bit because I want it to cover it completely. I don't want any little white showing. Once I have it where I want it, say like this, I went up here and applied it. And then I selected the whole thing. And I did shaping and weld. And you can do shaping from the top also. So there's the basis of where I started. And of course, I'm pretty good at, like, I love to do copy paste. And then I'm going to make something smaller. So the middle one, I can make that, let's make that 75. Let's see how small it goes. There we go. And that 75, you can see already, it's cut the little edges right there. But you know what? I want to undo that. I think I only want to go maybe 90% to leave a little bit on the edge. So you can see there's a little edge there. And then I can take this inner one and I'm going to copy paste it again. And maybe that one I'll do a little bit more, like 80. And then I have my 2 rows of colors. So one of the things I can do here is, if I want to, I could take this one. Well, I have to trim first. I have to select these 2 and come up here. Let me get all of them where I want them. So if you want to have gaps and things like that, if you do shaping and trim, then you can remove parts. Like I'm going to take this one away. So now I have that outer part and an inner part. It's kind of like this part's ready and I have to work on that part. So I can create the inside just like I did there. I can redo it and make another one going down, like I did here. So let's do that one more time. Copy, paste. We'll reduce it 80%. And then on the 81, I'm going to turn that one into yellow. And I'm also going to, and you can see my overlaps is working over here. So it's taking things away for me. I'm going to make some changes to these stitches on the outer part because I'm not sure I want them to group together like that because I want them to be different colors. So let's see if we can change that too. Let's just make it orange for now. There we go. And then in the yellow, I went ahead and gave it a pattern because it looks so much better with a little pattern in there. And the pattern doesn't really show very well. And when you have a pattern like that, if you use your stitch flow, that will help, there it goes, that will help you turn that pattern to look a lot better in your shape. All right, now you guys are so quiet. I hope everything's going all right out there. Everybody's very quiet on there. So you can create these outer shapes, you know, by using the way I did it over here, where I laid one on top of the other and trimmed it away. And had the piece here. Now this one here, what I did is, I'm going to copy it and do it again so I can show you. I wanted to fill that white space. So after I got it all done, I thought, you know, I do really want to fill that space over there. So I'm going to put them up here. Oops, I didn't copy it. Let's undo and copy paste and put it up here. All right. So to do that, I selected the outer part and I did a copy paste. And then I gave it a fill for the outer part. And then it filled in with my purple. So I got my purple filled in there. And then I have my little dot. This out here, well, let me see if I can. This out here, I did auto border. So let me do my one out here, and we're going to go up to convert auto border to the outside. And I put it about, I think I put it at maybe 0.1 to the outside. And you can test, you know, which one will work for you to the distance. It's going to be just 0.1. And I'm going to do okay. And then I went into my stitches. It was running and I want to stitch. And that was stitched, I have to think about what one that was. It had a little bit of a, I think it's down here. Let me see if I click on it, it will tell me it's 155. So let's go get 155. Which I think looks like little bow ties, right? This one here. So on here, ooh, it went on 2 lines by mistake. Or it made an extra line in there. So that's how I created that little bow look on the outside. I just created it out. Oh, it made an outline and everything. Well, we don't want that. We just want this outline. Oh, let's ungroup it. There we go. Now we can go get 155. And I could put right up here 155 since I know which one it is. And there it goes on my little outline. So easily I made, and this somehow got outlines in it, and I'm going to delete any outlines that are in there because I don't want them. So that's how I made my flower. I used, different tools to create. I knew I couldn't draw this really perfect shape that I wanted. So I made my circle, and then I used my array tool to make it go around. And then from there, I created more shapes from that. Now down here, this is for these leaves. What's really cool about these, I just drew them to give me the outline. And so that's what is in the outline. So if I just come in here and I delete this, you'll see that little bean stitch is the whole outline. And then I created this shape to fit in there by using my nodes. And then I had a nice little green shape in there. And I could do different things with that, of course. If I wanted to add any patterns to it, I could add some patterns to it there. Over here, I took the shape and I added a row fill. Now, row fill is kind of interesting. It's, it doesn't, you have to kind of manipulate it a little bit to fit your shape. And that's kind of a weird shape to fit, but it does work. Let me go to a new page because I want to show you with the row fill. We're going to use a square. Whoops, that's not a square. Let's delete that. I want the square. We're going to make a square like that. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to row fill. Now your row fill, you can use patterns in there as well. So you can make a row fill, with a nice pattern like that as well. And then once you have it like that, you can use your stitch flow to put some direction in there. Now this one has to be from the edge. So if I went from the edge here over to there, look at that interesting texture. You see how that worked? It's a lot tighter up here and it gets wider down there based on and you just have to be careful. Sometimes there's a little degradation. You have to find that spot. You can even put in a second line and maybe that one is going to work off from there. Oh, no, not like that. There we go. Put this one down. So you can have a section in the middle. So you don't have to just have a shape that has a fill. You can have a shape that has a fill that really looks cool. Isn't that interesting? Of the different effects you can get with that. I hope you're all cheering because I can't tell if anybody's listening at all either. But anyways, so I always find that's fun to play with, especially, the stitch flow tool. You have the direction, divide, and point direction. And I'm going to show you the other two. When you have, let's go down here and I'm going to create like a sort of an oval-y shape here. And I'm going to select it. I might rotate it a little bit, maybe not. I'm going to make this a satin fill. So right here. And you can see now this is a satin fill. This is too wide of a satin. That's going to get, if you get my finger caught on that. So what I can do is I can go to my stitch flow, select this and go to stitch flow. And I have direction, divide, and point direction. So with divide, I can come in here and I can divide this in. Well, I could if my cursor stayed where it was supposed to. I can click and drag. So I'm left clicking and dragging for all of these. And I get a little fold in the middle of it, right? So now my stitches are less. I can go back into stitch flow. Maybe I want to undo that one. I want to go to divide. I'm going to move this divide there. And then I'm going to bring this one in over here. These can be bent a little bit as well. You can bend them. Oops, I got to put that one back in. There we go. So you can bend them and then you can go to direction. And if you need to direct those satin bars to be going in a certain direction, you can do that as well. Now, stitch flow is really handy when you're working with lettering as well, because when you're in a fill, the letter of a fill and it's satin and sometimes it doesn't look right in the corners, you can go ahead and select your stitch flow and use direction to make those stitches go the way you want them to go. Especially in the corner of a letter, you could put it at an angle in the corner and it will help with that. Now, point direction is really fun. So I'm going to make another circle over here. So point direction, when I come in here and select this and stitch flow, now that is actually, it's a step fill, so I want to make it a satin fill. And then with my point direction, I can bring the point down here, which doesn't look great, or I can bring it in the center, and it pulls everything into the center of my piece. So now I have this kind of things going into the center of my piece, which I think is kind of interesting. You can actually use this with other, like with the row fill as well. If I'm in here and I go to row fill and I go to stitch flow and I pick point direction, I can bring the point down here and you can see how it's sort of bringing itself down in here. So you can bring, you do have to play with where it's going to be because there it goes. It's kind of circling around into the center like that. So you can actually make even more creative things with using your stitch flow tool and row fill, even with the stitches too. You have to play around a little bit with if you're using your row fill stitches on that part of it. So that's how I did. I'm going to go back to my flower. That's how I filled this in. I took the created shape and I used row fill, and it kind of, filled it in a messy way, but gave me kind of a cute looking petal to my flower on there. All right, let me see what time. Oh my gosh, we've used a lot of time up today. All right, let me go back over here. I knew I was going to go over, that this was going to be a long one. Let me go back here and I'll put the camera on. Here we go. So hopefully that gets you going on some of those tools. You do have to, start out with shapes and create a shape and then use some of the tools to fill that shape. Use a step fill and then use a pattern. Then go and get your stitch flow tool and make some lines in there and see what happens with your shaping. So this way you get, the more I play with those, there's things that I really like to use when I'm creating different designs that I go back to every time, that I'm like, ooh, that's, kind of my favorite thing to use. So stitch flow for me is really big. I love the shapes tool. And then from there, like even using my digitize outline shape tool, though I'm not making, you don't have to be that, perfection artist. We do have those. We're like very range in our group. We have some people that are like me. I like really I'm not creative. I'm like more folksy kind of things like that. And we have people who want to do very detailed, ornate work, and it's beautiful. I just can't quite get there yet. So I'm learning that too. So we're in all different parts. So I really challenge you to don't be afraid of the tools. Give them a try. If you have questions or problems, post them to the page. I'm sure I can pop in and help you. And there's other people on there that would be happy to help you with using all those different tools. But they're there for you to use, especially those ones I showed in the beginning about, creating a workspace, using the guidelines, using your grid, changing your default color of your shapes and of your lines so that you're not working with just the white, because I think that's the default. So you need to have your own default. All right, everyone, I'm going to let you go. Make sure you play around with this stuff. Let me know how you're doing, and I'll see you again next week. Bye for now.